Okay, good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and call to order the study session, and we'll go ahead and start. It looks like, let's see, is this you, Larry?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
The first one? Okay.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, this evening we will be covering two topics during our study session. The first is the draft effluent allocation strategy, and the second is the action plan that really is the final component. Both of these are actually a culmination of several months' work by the Mayor, Council, and staff. But if I can make a point of clarification, if you are looking at the document that's in your council packet that's online, that is a document that was generated several years ago and not the right effluent allocation strategy. I have handed out a hard copy for everybody. This evening I realized a couple of minutes ago that I had attached really what was the foundational document to this entire process that was done by Westwater. Many of you are familiar with it, I'm certain. But with that being said, if you'll take a look at the document that I've handed out that I reference as the draft effluent allocation strategy, as all of you know, this is 3 months culmination into what we consider to be the final draft of an allocation strategy that we've worked on through the various study sessions over the course of the past several months. Obviously, there's been a lot of change that has transpired in the world of water during that period of time with the announcement of Arizona Water Company receiving their designation through the alternative designation of Assured Water Supply Program, which in my mind just adds an additional reason for us to begin to build a strategy that we can make known as an organization to developers in the community, as well as our community, provide transparency through that. So what you will see in this document is really a combination of components to it. It may be a bit long. If the Mayor and Council would like me to make reductions or make amendments to this, I'm looking for that feedback tonight. But ultimately, what I attempted to do, what the team attempted to do, is establish, based on the feedback we received from the Mayor and Council, a allocation model, if you will. I've also put in some concepts into the strategy so that it can be a guiding force when we're looking at various requests for allocation, as well as a model, a 10-year model on what we might be expecting based on the effluent volumes that we've seen over the last several years. And at least in my mind, and I think the mind of the team that's been working with the city on this, it really serves as an overall foundation that can be used for future decision making. You'll also see in it, and I'll talk a little bit about it in more detail, is the need to bring back some type of an annual report to the Mayor and Council that really just highlights how the effluent was allocated in any particular year, determine whether or not it's meeting our percentages that have been guided by the council. But again, from staff's perspective, we think that's an important element of this, just to stay, particularly for the next couple of years, because we've designed the strategy to have some flexibility for Mayor and Council as requests come in, but ultimately we need to have a mechanism by which we are reporting annually what those volumes are looking like and how they're being allocated to ensure that we're staying within some level of balance. But with that, Mayor and Council, if I can, you'll see in the first page, we basically cover really a summary of what you've heard and really what our focus was on how effluent can be utilized. We in Casa Grande use it for in some form or fashion, practically in every use, from agriculture, from landscaping, irrigation at the Dave White Golf Course to industrial processes at the SRP power generation plant, as well as adding to our long-term storage credits. And again, with the changes in the landscape of water, there's no doubt that we're going to begin to receive requests for effluent to be allocated to the Assured Water Supply program as well. I talk a little bit about the strategic objectives on page 2. Again, these are really summaries from what you've heard over the course of the last 3 months. That really the importance of effluent, the long-term water security, focusing on recharge, the regulatory compliance and the like. So just a section related to that. And then I really begin to the report gets into the allocation priorities and attempts to develop a tier system for consideration, really breaking that down into municipal and regulatory needs, high-value economic development in Tier 2, and then commercial, agriculture, and landscaping in Tier 3. In my mind, this really just gives us a mechanism by which, if we get multiple requests, we have a priority of how we would actually look to allocate that effluence in that order. And really, I think it aligns with what the feedback that we've heard from the mayor and council over the course of these study sessions. I talk a little bit about contractual standards, what we might be looking for, pricing philosophy, and infrastructure planning and capacity. Primarily, you may not see something like this in a normal strategy. These are the sections that, if you think should be modified, at least in my mind. If you want more flexibility, we would likely take those out. But I've added that for the development community to understand, to have a little better understanding of what, as a city, we are looking for in terms of a effluent agreement. And I know that the mayor and council is well aware that we've had some recent requests for effluent agreement, and we've navigated through some of that, but this really becomes part of the foundation of the feedback that we've received. And really, you've heard some of these same comments from Catherine Sorensen when she was in. It really just kind of sets the basis for a contractual framework to the development community. And then finally, and I'm actually on section 10, that transparency in government, and ultimately this is where I begin to get into the annual reporting to the mayor and council, talking about the total effluent production, allocation volumes, remaining capacity, revenue generated, long-term commitments. I think that we know the importance of effluent today in Casa Grande, and personally believe that having some type of a transparency component to this just will ultimately, in my mind, drive better decision making, drive at least some level of understanding by the development community, and most importantly, it allows our residents to understand that we take this very seriously and look to account for that and report it on an annual basis. But it brings us to section 11, which is the strategic reserve policy. That is something that the mayor and council talked about in our last study session, that was focused on the fact that there was a desire on the part of the elected body to add a reserve component to this. Ultimately, staff sees this as an opportunity to continue to generate our long-term storage credits, essentially through recharge. And we have modeled the entire program around a 20% reservation each year. I've left this somewhat flexible for the mayor and council to be able to utilize that from time to time if you'd like to allocate it, but ultimately the parameters are established in this program to establish a reserve, and then 40% allocation to the industrial and commercial, and 40% into residential. And ironically enough, and I think I said this at the last meeting, ultimately we have, at the city, we have really been on a first come first served basis with the use of our effluent. And ironically enough, if you look at the percentages, it almost aligns with that 50-50 today anyhow in our allocation to residential development, i.e. Copper Mountain Ranch, the allocation to that development, as well as to SRP and to the Dave White Golf Course and other commitments that are coming behind it. We really have somewhat organically met that 40-40-20% just organically. So, but again, it was built on the 20%, and then ultimately some conclusions. When I get into section, what would that be, 14, I guess, the economic sector base, we really begin to dive into the model, the 20-40-40 model that we've modeled this under. Again, that is something that percentage is something that can change by the mayor and council. You can certainly over allocate one particular sector if you'd like in any given year, but ultimately always attempting to find that balance, if you will. And but ultimately that's what we've modeled this under and are going to be driving to fulfill. So I talk a little bit about some of what I would consider, or what the team would consider, the The industrial allocation, and I'm going to spend a little time on this, that we would look to prioritize to industries that are strategic industrial users with significant capital investment, water intensive users that reduce potable water demand, essentially the drain of the aquifer, the job creation and wage levels, capital investment, and community benefit agreements. Those are just what I consider to be guiding principles that when we have an industry that comes in and wants to meet with the city and perhaps negotiate an effluent purchase agreement, that we would be using those. You'll see that I did not write specific requirements. For example, we have an economic development ordinance that requires so many new creation of jobs, a pay over a specific threshold, and a capital investment. I did not add any of those criteria to this, but I guess I would pause at this point and just ask if the council, particularly at the front of this, is more interested in leaving it somewhat vague and evaluating on a case-by-case basis for the next year or two, or if you want us to begin to really tie in some level of threshold that must be met in order to qualify for an effluent purchase agreement.
I believe having the flexibility to do that, where we don't have nothing set like right now, but we have the flexibility where we can adjust it if we need to in another area.
Right.
And I think this is Anthony's thinking, that we be flexible with that. Instead of saying, okay, we're going to put this amount to this amount to that,
Right.
and be flexible because the need may change.
Correct.
And so we just need to be able to adjust. So, but that's my thoughts on it.
And you outline the criteria. I mean,
Right.
So you're saying, okay, we want to make sure there's some type of community benefit.
Right.
Agreement, capital investment, job creation and wages.
Right.
So I guess it's there without having specific, dollars or number of jobs.
No mandates. Yeah, just maintain flexibility. I agree.
Yeah.
The things I like too was, and I wanted to be more out front, but that it's reducing groundwater usage, right?
Right.
Because that's important, because a lot of people don't realize that they're not taking water out of the ground because they're using this. We can use it for other things, because that was a big thing when Catherine Sorensen came from the Kyle Center about public health. Actually, they put it under public health, which is,
Right.
One way to put it. And then another important part is the participation in infrastructure capital costs from users on the industrial side. So, but that's all in there. So, and I think, we're on the forefront of this, which I think is good, of having even a policy in place.
Right.
So I think it's going to, start with this and see how it goes and changes as we go forward with it. But
Right. I do think that there is some benefit to that. You'll remember that Ms. Sorensen had indicated that she was unaware of any other city having this, and we certainly found that as we were attempting to model one at the front end of this. But in her comments back as we worked through this document, she had suggested that more cities ought to be looking at that, at something like this, with the change of the landscape in water, because I think it's fair to say that we're very likely going to get more requests for the use of effluent than we ever have, because of the importance of effluent to the ADOS program.
And Larry, and I like the idea that it really, even though we say policy, but it really is like guidelines at this
Right,
point,
right.
So because this is the very first time we're doing this, and we wanted it because we started getting requests.
Right.
And so we were, okay, well, what is our strategy? What do we want to do? So I think it's good to have a little bit of flexibility, even though we have to be careful, because if someone comes and asks, and we say, okay, no, you don't qualify, but then the other one is, and there's no concrete numbers, I don't know how we can navigate, through that, but I think we have to be careful and make sure we're somewhat consistent too.
No, absolutely, Mayor. And I think from a practical application perspective, what I'm envisioning is that on the industrial side specifically, that we typically receive some level of information or detail related to the capital investment of a prospective business and the number of jobs they're going to create and the wages. It's something that we normally would see in the course of our economic development efforts. And so I envision that we will continue to get that information and apply it if they're asking for some level of effluent. But most importantly, I guess I would start by talking about the disadvantage to not setting those parameters and trying to stay consistent. The disadvantage is that we want to maximize this effluent, and so what likely will transpire, at least in my mind, is that it will very likely, depending on the capital investment, drive the terms of agreements and those types of provisions that are included in an agreement to ensure that we're not tying up effluent that could be more valuable to us in the future, right? So that's going to be the art component of these next couple of years, at least in my mind.
Sure.
Well, it sounds like the council wants to leave it as somewhat flexible and be able to change it. What does that mean for the future of this document? Will we be voting on an ordinance at some point, or?
We are going to be asking the mayor and council to ultimately adopt the strategy, but in essence, it will be there is language throughout the document that allows each case to be on a case-by-case basis. So, at least in my mind today, Councilmember Huddleston, is that it gives us the flexibility to consider any potential buyer of effluent or requester of effluent. I personally believe that what will transpire is that as we move into the next couple of years, you're going to begin to see some parameters that we can begin to establish with a little more definition, and maybe come back at some point as this is amended in the future, and ultimately add more criteria, if you will, if that makes sense. I mean, in my mind, it's something that gives us the flexibility today, but we're going to begin to build the foundation for the parameters for tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, no more questions.
If there's no questions on industrial, I'll move to residential, again, 40%. You know, I think that this is probably going to be the area that we grapple with a little bit, simply because as time advances and we begin to see what type of development is going to be taking advantage of the alternative designation, we're going to have different requests by developers. Is there a difference in the eyes of the council from 100-unit subdivision to 1,000-unit subdivision, right? And so I really do believe it's going to drive continued discussion. In fact, I have a couple of areas that I want to speak with at the council as we come to a conclusion. I believe that we're in a good enough position today to be able to consider any development that transpires, but I honestly believe that we will likely end up wanting to establish some criteria for the residential side of this when it's all said and done, and perhaps establishing the minimum acreage or the minimum number of units that a developer is going to build. I don't know that we're going to be wanting to do an effluent purchase agreement with every house that gets built in town, right? And so I'll just unveil one of the topics I was going to talk about. I think the idea, as time goes on and we see exactly how this new process on the water side is going to drive effluent, do we want to be in a position where we're entering into an agreement with every developer that needs the effluent in order to activate their development? And or do we want to essentially do one development agreement with Arizona Water that transfers that effluent? There's, in my mind, these next couple of years, there's a number of components that are important to us. Some of the practical elements that we've talked about with Arizona Water, as an example, is beginning to require development to put in metering devices to measure the amount of effluent that is coming back to the city. Today, that's not a requirement in our development standards, but tomorrow, as these developers begin to utilize effluent, we're going to want to ensure that we're not overcommitting our effluent to residential if they're not generating the water demand. But again, today it's very, very difficult. ADWR for the ADOS has accepted 33%. So we've kind of had that dialogue for 33, but we don't know if it's going to be 50% or 12% until we really get into these developments. We're going to continue to encourage some level of desert landscape and those types of things on these residential units, but in these subdivisions. But at the end of the day, it's uncertain for us to know exactly what that percentage of water demand that that is taken by that development for homes and for landscape and whatever else they have is coming back into our wastewater treatment system. So we're going to want to measure that in the next couple of years and ensure that we're allocating or returning some level of effluent on a more reliable percentage besides 33.
Sure.
I got a couple of comments, questions. One thing that was important to me and people I talked to in the community about the industrial side was the time limit
Right.
on the, on the agreement.
Yes.
With single-family residential, that's gonna, we can't say 20 years, right?
It's
Because
100 years.
what are we gonna do? It has to be
Right.
100, so that's one thing. But can we use it if we do the individual agreements with developments, that maybe you have to require that they have that meter?
Right.
If they want to enter in that type of agreement.
I-
Maybe Arizona Water would do that. And then maybe we can require different, maybe certain densities, to kind of use it as a tool to drive development.
Councilmember Herman, you're lining up the next series of study sessions, and part of my closing comments on this particular topic. So I want to respond to some of the points that you made, because I think you're 100% correct. That essentially, I don't know that we're going to see a lot of these immediately, a lot of requests. We have already seen a couple on residential today, and we're trying to establish the framework of a development agreement with those developers. So I think what you're going to see is that we will begin to establish some level of consistency in what we're willing to give back now. And I know they're going to ask for a 100-year assurance of that.
That makes sense.
That doesn't necessarily mean that we have to grant that. Again, that's going to be part of the negotiations. And I think there's some components that the size of the development, the timing of the development, those types of things that are ultimately, those types of elements that are ultimately going to come into play in these next couple of years. But I do envision that we will be having some discussion with Arizona Water and our staff about potentially requiring these effluent meters as part of our development standards, to ensure that we're properly calculating for the effluent that is being returned, to ensure that we're not over allocating to a development when we could be using that somewhere else. The second component that I think is important is that undoubtedly we're going to have developers that they're already raising this particular topic of densities that and different housing approaches, from housing standards to lot sizes to the like. That will undoubtedly be something that this council is going to at least hear about. I'm not advocating that you need to make any changes to it, but we are already beginning to hear that as this new water program is being instituted, that it's adding some level of cost to buy supply, and that there should be some consideration given to the lot sizes and the densities that go with that. So I anticipate, and I can't give you the exact date when it's going to start, but I would guess in the next 3 months, you're likely going to begin to receive some level of presentation and study session format to begin that dialogue, so that we can come to some conclusions and begin to marry our development standards with this effluent strategy.
Kim? Any other questions at this point? Okay, Larry.
If there's no questions on that point, then ultimately you get into, again, I talk about the flexibility and adaptive management to this current strategy, the strategic triggers that really that we can begin to utilize for allocating. Again, these are primarily driven for our developers to have an understanding of what we may be interested in seeing, various thresholds there, and which then takes us to the 10-year allocation model. And really, what I've done is just try to give the council a perspective, but most importantly, show a couple of elements. First and foremost, that we've run what I consider to be a very conservative annual growth at 1.6. We're setting aside the regulatory reserve. We're splitting between the sectors, And what it does is it really is, this is nothing more than an attempt to model for the council an understanding of what types of volumes we're going to be treating, what types of volumes we can anticipate that we're going to be recharging, and more importantly, the types of volumes that the growth we may see the next couple of years as we begin to really focus on finding the balance of that allocation between both sectors. So it's just a lot of, I know it looks like a lot of numbers, and I apologize for that, but I think the most important element of it all is that over a 10-year time period, at the 1.6% growth, we're seeing an increase of about 400 acre foot in each sector, which again, just that's the unique thing about effluent, is that the more you generate, the more option you have to allocate. Madam Mayor, members of the council, I would just close. I've talked a little bit about my thoughts related to development itself, and the idea that we likely are going to be asked for some level of allocation in the very near term. I also wanted to raise the issue that it's very likely, well, I would be recommending, it's something that our staff is already beginning to have discussion on, is that we likely need to come behind this, after council adopts this allocation strategy, with work closely with Arizona Water Company to develop a recharge strategy, because the second component to any of this, to effluent, is the ability to recharge and recover, as you all learned through this process, in various locations of the community. And today we have just the one recharge facility, which is adjacent to the wastewater treatment plant and the Dave White Park. It's essentially the wash, but there are some challenges because of the hydrological composition of that. I don't know that we're ever going to be able to grow that particular area much greater and maximize the long-term storage credits that we can generate. So I think it's more practical for us to begin to look at a longer range vision to develop recharge facilities at various parts of our community, in order to ensure that growth is happening throughout the community. And obviously what comes with that is a recovery component. You recharge and you recover. We've been having discussion with Arizona Water about a recovery agreement. And so there's some follow-up portions to this, and I guess the message that I'm attempting to frame this evening is that while this is a fantastic start and it really kind of sets us ahead of the game in my mind, at the end of the day, there's still some additional work that we're going to have to come behind this with, that really kind of paints that picture, or builds the full loop for development to transpire in Casa Grande. So with that, Madam Mayor, I think I've used my 28 minutes of my 30 on this, but I practiced 3 times, so
That's got a
Questions?
quick
Sure, Sean.
question. Larry, on the recharge facilities.
Yes.
I mean, those are going to cost money in different places, strategic planning, all that kind of
Right.
stuff. How are we going to figure out how to pay for that? I mean, are we going to pass that on to the developers, or who's going to actually pay for that? It can't come out of the coffer, I imagine, but it's got to come out of future development, correct?
right. And Councilmember Dugan, it's a fantastic question, and I'm going to give you a broad answer tonight just to get the council kind of thinking about this. Obviously, there's a couple of different models that I think that we could pursue. First and foremost, the question is going to be who is going to operate the recharge facility, and I think we have some options. It can be the city of Casa Grande, it may be Arizona Water in certain circumstances. We can make the development community responsible for building the infrastructure to get the effluent to recharge so that they can recover the water, the physical supply in their areas. I think that's an option as well. Once you begin to establish that, you can impose various fees to capitalize these types of projects. We understand that it is a bit of a change to our model from a development perspective, but it also is going to require that infrastructure is being run to these locations, that recharge facilities are being built. And so I guess I would say tonight that there's a handful of models that I think the mayor, or approaches that the mayor and council can can pursue. Today, I think, well, today what your city manager's been telling developers is that they're responsible for it. And so that gets met with some level of
Yeah,
surprise.
expensive,
And I'm certainly not saying that to scare them. I just know that from our perspective, we have not put any type of recharge, long-term recharge strategy or infrastructure into our rates. And in my mind, at least, if you're wanting to, there needs to be some level of parameter that separates the current residents from having to cover the cost of that for a specific type of a utility that's going to benefit a certain area of town. That's my view. Obviously, the council will drive that policy decision when it's said and done, but it's one of the reasons why I think we need to begin to talk about recharge and the cost recovery for that.
Okay. Thanks, Larry.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I think we're good. Thank you so much.
All right,
Larry.
so I'm going to move forward. If you have any additional feedback or comments, please let me know. But we will move forward to getting this before council for your consideration. And that will move us into another strategic planning topic that the mayor and council has been working on diligently since October. If I can, this may even save me some time at the regular council meeting if I can give a bit of a history tonight. Maybe I'll repeat it, but I want our residents to know that strategic planning has been a very key component to this council and past councils. In fact, 9 years ago now, we went through a process, a retreat, a lot of work by the existing mayor and council at that point to put a strategic plan together. And at least in my mind, it served as a very useful tool as we've gone through the growth that we have. Obviously, they need to be refreshed, and our past councils have always looked at the idea of looking at reviewing the action items on a year-by-year basis. So we've been reviewing it regularly. In the course of the past strategic plan, the mayor and council made revisions at two separate times. And what we found is that as we came to the need to do a complete refresh of our strategic plan, we were seating a new council and a new mayor at that point in time as well. So we ultimately elected to revise our action items, which we look as a 1 to 2 year term. And the mayor and council met with staff in October on a 2-day retreat. Jody was able to attend a portion of that, so she got to see a little bit of the initial kickoff of the efforts that were put in. But in the strategic plan, we followed a similar format. We had a new consultant that led us on this past attempt, but we ultimately ended up modifying our focus areas and modifying our strategic objectives, which I've presented to the mayor and council in a past study session. And really, unless there's any specific comments that you have in the document that we've sent out that you're going to be considering later on tonight, I won't spend a lot of time on the focus areas, the definition thereof, or the strategic objectives that have been established. What my intentions were tonight is just to spend a bit of time on the action items, which, as I said, really drive our fiscal year budget. And in this case, many of these are being incorporated into our fiscal year 27 budget that is underway, with a budget retreat scheduled in April for the mayor and council. So I'll pause there and ask if there's any amendments that you'd like to make to the focus areas or the strategic objectives, and then we'll jump into the action items.
Questions, comments?
No, not
Okay.
not on the key focus areas or the objectives, unless we get the action items.
Right. Mm-hmm.
When we get into the action items, you'll begin to see that there's more specificity and there's a lot of intention to that. It really is what becomes our plan of work for the upcoming year to 2 years, and depending on what we're really focused on. But ultimately, what you're going to find, and I'll just spend some time on each of these, in infrastructure and expansion, which we knew was going to be a big key focus area. We set some very lofty objectives of really focusing on roadway intersections, adding roadway capacity, and improving pavement condition. So you'll see that we've started to identify the specific projects that we anticipate really focusing on fiscal year 27 in those. We focus a bit on the odors, the sewer odors around town, and the work that needs to be done there. We focus on the wastewater collection systems, both the mains as well as the treatment expansion. We focus on park development. You'll see that we were able to add the specific areas that we anticipate working on and that you'll see more detail on in the fiscal year 27 budget retreat. We focus on government building space and the need to improve and add capacity of government building space. And you'll see that we really have a focus, and this was a primary topic of this Mayor and Council, and I don't mind saying it, that they want to see us using procurement methods and the like that can ensure that projects are getting done. As I was telling Mayor Fitzgibbons today, that likely, and you'll see this at the budget retreat, we're going to need to rely on you to help us do some project prioritization in order to do that, to build some timelines, and so anticipate that. But ultimately, we want to, the government process in the minds of many can be very slow from the time you allocate a dollar to the time the project is done. And so we're looking at ways within our procurement codes and within our approaches to process of trying to build, number one, more efficiency in those so that we can get through that process. And the council has been very supportive of a variety of changes that allow us to pick up some time in that process. And now we need to start to deliver by actually getting these projects done in a timely manner. That's, in my mind, that's getting a team, getting the right people and the sufficient staff to be able to get these projects done in a timely manner. And all along, and one of at least in my mind, one of the primary conversation that took place in our retreat, some of the feedback that I've heard since our strategic planning efforts started, is that we want to ensure that we've got community engagement as a key component of this. And number one, engaging the community on projects specifically, but having locations on our website as an example for people to go and be able to take a look at the progress that's taken place and the like. So that gets all encompassed in the action items for this particular focus area of infrastructure. And I'll pause there and see if anybody has any questions, comments, or concerns about this.
No? I think the questions and comments we talked about earlier is really, how we're going to get it all done. Prioritizing.
Yes.
and-
Well, that's-
Yeah, that's, it's good to have it on paper, but if it's going to take us 10 years to get things done, or, I just wanted to make sure that we have a plan, timelines, or whatever it is.
Absolutely.
Well, I guess, I'll just say it now. First of all, it's, staff has obviously put a lot of time into this, and it's a great product. My only concern goes back to what we had said at the original day is, let's not overwhelm ourselves, because there's a lot of action items on here.
Right.
And I do get concerned that if there's not some type of prioritization to them, that we're gonna try and do them all, and then nothing gets done. We're just end up in a fight. So, that's, you've got personnel constraints, you've got economic constraints. I just want to make sure that we've got a good idea of what the actual priorities are through all these action items.
Right. And we tried to list a couple of them on, particularly in the roadway improvements. We've really used that as what I would consider to be the, we've studied the roadway more than any other element.
Right.
And
Right.
so it gives us a good basis.
In a way, it's
to
an
be
easier
right to
one
begin
to-
to begin to prioritize. I do anticipate that when we get into because you're going to see this. Our capital improvement program is going to be as healthy as the last 3 years. And what we're finding is that we're getting about 50% of those done on average. We're trying to get some exact numbers that we would share, but the idea of ensuring that we're focused on these projects is the message that I want to come out of the budget retreat. And I believe that, and in fact, if you look at some of the action items, you see that we're spending the time to prioritize, which will be an exercise that the mayor and council will be going through as part of budget, is to prioritizing these areas. I think that becomes a key component of us being able to execute in a more timely manner, because we're focused on those, and then we get those done, we move to the next set of priorities.
All right. Anything else?
No, it's okay.
Oh, sure, Matt.
Yeah, and then we're gonna go over these priorities at some point.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, my thing just changed. Here it is. So another thing that I would really like, we've been talking about, is some sort of communication process with the
Right.
citizens. I know we're having our open houses, which are great.
Yeah.
But you know, like right now, why can't I click on Florence Boulevard and say, when is this going to be done? And who's in charge of this project?
Right.
Because we're getting a lot of stuff saying, hey, the city's doing this, say, you know, we're glad that's being done, but it is not our project as a city. It's affecting us as a city, but we issue permits for some of the projects, some of
Right.
them that we don't have to issue permits for. But I'd really like some sort of tracking, and that way people could contact the entity that they need to if they have questions about that, instead of us having, we're glad to help people and point them in the right direction, I know. But, you know, we could head off a lot, and also some sort of a tracker timeline scoreboard, so people can see all of our main ones laid out, just like this.
Right.
So that they can click on some point. I mean, it's in our website, and I know we're revamping all that for the new requirements, which
Right.
is great. But, I mean, it needs to be done, and I'm glad we're ahead of that, don't get me wrong. But so we can have something on there so people can say, hey, when is this intersection gonna be done? And it's like, hey, it's slated for fall of 2027 or what, you know?
Right.
We're
So that-
working on that already,
Yeah,
aren't we,
no,
Larry?
absolutely. And
I was
and-
handing that up to you.
No,
Larry.
thank you.
good.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Councilmember Herman and Mayor
To
Fitzgibbons.
give everyone an update.
Yeah.
The mayor and council will recall that that staff had promised 2 tools that I thought were going to be very useful for our residents to track the development that is transpiring in the community, both the projects that the city of Casa Grande has, as well as projects of just by private development and/or that may be requiring permits. And we have made good progress on that, and I'm feeling very comfortable that we're going to be able to stand up those tools in short order. I don't want to give a specific time, because to Councilman Herman's perspective, we're dealing with the requirements the ADA requirements on our website, and what we're finding is that anything related to maps, anything related to presentations, videos, they're going to require some level of additional effort that ultimately goes into those. And so what I did not want to do is stand those up and then have to take them down immediately because they weren't going to be compliant. So we're evaluating that, but I anticipate, if nothing more, and I'm somewhat anxious to see how the government world is going to deal with the ADA requirements around the nation, quite frankly. I do believe that we're making very good progress on becoming ADA compliant, and our team is working very diligently. But I will say that those states that have already implemented this requirement, California and Colorado are the 2 that come to my mind, it really takes away from the type of information that cities are putting out on their website. And when you compare even what we do in Casa Grande to some of those communities in those 2 states, I want to say generic, maybe that's not the right word, but there's not as much going on the website. And because it is our primary communication tool, and we also have to be compliant with social media and the like on these requirements, certainly want to meet the requirements, we're having to make some subtle changes to that. But I agree wholeheartedly that we need to come up with something that our community can easily access and ultimately track where these projects are in a timeline. And we're working on one right now. The mayor and council will be having some discussion on our recreation, our new recreation facilities, and so you'll begin to see some of the work that we anticipate deploying as part of that project as well.
So there is progress being
I-
made on that.
I knew that, but I thought I would.
He wanted me to say it.
It's just frustrating, but Larry, so say an example is the housing study that was
Yeah.
done by a consultant. Can we ask these consultants to make sure that they're giving their presentation in ADA, compliance, so then we can just put that link on? Or is it more if we attach something, there's something that goes into that.
Mayor, I'm going to make a statement. I'm going to try to respond, but I'm going to let our city attorney ensure that I'm
Yeah.
being accurate about that. We can absolutely ask, and we'll begin to ask the individuals that are giving PowerPoints to the mayor and council to ensure that they're ADA compliant. We will very likely need to ensure that they're meeting compliance before we put them on our website
Yeah.
as well. But Brett, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, I think, to Larry's point, one of the things that we're doing currently is as staff is beginning to put out RFQs, as they're putting out other things, we're requiring that those submittals be compliant if
Okay.
they're provided in electronic format, as well as requiring that the deliverables be in a compliant format.
Okay.
So we're already working towards that
Good.
through our contracts with those guys. Study sessions, it could be a little bit more difficult, but it's certainly
Yeah.
something, since we're not contracting with them sometimes,
Right.
but it's certainly something that they're going to be aware of and staff's going to make people aware of so that people will be able to access it in an accessible format.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But needless to say, I think you're going to see some level of community engagement in every one of these focus areas. And if I can just add one more component.
And that's one of our focus areas.
That is, yeah, so ultimately, we are preparing a community engagement plan that the mayor and council will see as well. It'll give you more flavor of what we anticipate, the approach that we anticipate utilizing.
And because to Brent's point, like, I see this, I'm like, yeah, let's do this. But it's not going to happen overnight, no matter what,
Yeah.
So we just need to set those expectations because, just the infrastructure,
Yes.
fiscally is the heavy lift, right?
Massive,
So, yeah.
yes.
So, but I really overall, great document,
Yes.
good work. And I know that the neat thing I still like about this is we continue to relate every council action back to this, everything we do, that it follows our plan to help our
Right.
city become better so that we can really track it and we have those deliverables and say, here, look, we are following this plan. And we revisit it to update
Exactly,
it.
yes. And I want to get through these because I want to be able to spend just a second on the process. But our next is obviously public safety, which was the number one element, focus area of the community when we did our surveys back in February a year ago. But really what you see is that we're working on response times. And there's a lot that goes into this, from staffing to Opticom systems that gets people through, through the signals and whatnot. So we're looking to decrease those response times on priority calls. We're looking to ensure that we're meeting the timelines necessary for the CON for ambulance calls. We're looking to ensure that we maintain appropriate staffing levels to meet community needs in both of our departments, public safety departments. We're also having influence, and I think that you'll begin to see this tying into community engagement as well, is our public safety community involvement as well, and just really beginning to identify that and letting the council understand where we're allocating resources for those. And then obviously, we want to focus on some level of enforcement. So we've got fatal vehicle collisions that we'll use. Many of these action items or objectives are tied to something that can be measured, so we can show the progress that we're making. And some of them are tied specifically to a benchmarking tool that the Valley cities use, so we can benchmark some of those as well. Any questions on public safety? If not, we'll move-
Just one comment, Larry,
Yes.
again, like, the 5% reduction it's a great goal. We just got to keep in mind that there are external factors on
Right.
some of these.
Right.
And that was one that jumped out at me, that we can do everything we can, but that doesn't mean we might not be able to meet that goal because of
Sure.
external factors.
Sure. Economic vitality, obviously, we want to ensure that we're maintaining a strong, resilient economy. And so really the focus in this, which is a little bit of a shift for us as a staff, is a focus on ensuring that we're getting business participation. Again, part of that community engagement component, having events and encouraging small businesses and large businesses to come together. We will be attempting to work closely with with our school districts, with CAC, on local businesses hiring local high school graduates. Again, there's some work that needs to be done to be able to establish the baseline to track that, but again, it's one of the action items. And then again, a focus to attract high quality paying jobs to the community as well. So again, these are mostly initiatives. These are programs that will be standing up as part of that. We also touched just very, very quickly on always attempting to make it easier to do business in Casa Grande. I know that's been a goal of the council for years now, and so again, it really is. I feel we hear a lot from the development community that we're pretty efficient in Casa Grande and comparatively to other governments, which is something that we ought to be proud of. In my mind, really what it is ensuring that we continue to evaluate our process, and we look at how others are doing things as well, and incorporating those types of change and process-oriented change. And then the last is obviously every community needs to have some level of focus on the housing stock and diverse dwelling options. And so we talked a little bit about some of the work that the Mayor and Council has just completed in the housing study and the apartment, the deeper dive on the apartment, but it really is taking some of the recommendations that they've listed there that we believe we can implement as part of that. Any questions on economic vitality? If not, we'll move into good governance, which is a brand new focus area for us. Not that we haven't had good governance built into our strategic plan in the past. Ultimately, it really has been incorporated into financial stability, and so good governance really good governance became the focus area because of the expansion into legislative items, as an example, this year. I think everybody's beginning to see the additional focus and efforts that we're taking in tracking what's happening at a state level for certain, but obviously at a federal level to some extent. But and with the updates that we're giving, and we come up with a couple of action items that I think we're doing for the most part today, but they seem to fall into that category. We want to increase the meaningful community participation in the government process, which ultimately is transparency, and utilizing our engagement plan to communicate, continuing our annual leadership academy, and promoting the serving on various boards and commission. But really the high point of this is that is developing elements that can build trust and relationship within our community. And so you see the community engagement plan. Again, that's something that we'll be bringing back to council. Last, well, I guess it's not last, but certainly we want to make sure that we maintain sustainable financial management and budgeting processes, and enhancing service delivery through data-driven decisions, while retaining a high-quality workforce. So a number of elements that get included, and I know that I guess I would say that there's a number of items in this, a number of action items embedded within this focus area. Many of these we do today, but we just want to continue to do that. So that's why you see the numbers there. All right. Any other questions? Any questions on good governance? If not, community enhancement, which really is the focus area that we're focused on, and on building a inviting community, one that values education and strong families. And so you see that we are looking to increase residents' participation in city-sponsored events, educating the community, increasing the information that is flowing to our community, conducting surveys, doing the open houses, the roundtable events and the like, increase awareness of organizational programs. Again, I don't think that there's many days that go by that we hear that somebody was unaware or unfamiliar with something that we provide or a program that we provide, so we want to do a better job there. Expanding community activities. Again, I anticipate an exercise where the council will have a chance to review all of the events and activities that we have, and making decisions around that. And most importantly, in this section, there was a lot of discussion about community beautification. We want to continue to our efforts on that. We've got, we've done some of these cleanups, and in the last strategy, I think we just want to put those, expand those. We want to look at our city codes to ensure that we've got enforcement tools and the like. And so with that, Madam Mayor, that covers those, and I'll entertain any questions, but I want to speak just very, very briefly about the next steps in the process.
Okay. Any questions? I'm sure we will over
Okay.
time, but,
Well, and I will be much more brief tonight when I present this at the regular council meeting.
okay.
Since we had a chance to go over that. But next steps on this is if the council approves it tonight, ultimately, we will obviously do an educational component. It'll be on our website. We'll make sure it's ADA compliant and put it on our website, and ultimately start some level of campaign of advising the mayor and council, or advising our residents. You will see this again in our strategic plan. You'll begin to see some of the tie to Councilman Herman's point about the requests that are coming in. You'll see some of the ties that go with that. And then obviously, I think the next exercise on this from a council's perspective is the prioritization efforts that we'll begin to work with following the retreat, and finalizing which projects we think we can get into the budget, and then putting a prioritization on that. But with that, Madam Mayor, members of council, I'd pause for any other questions.
Any further questions? Sure, Bob.
Could you give us an example, or maybe two, of what ADA compliant on a website is? It almost seems to me like that would be on the user's end, because they have a lot of different tools on that end. But
There are several tools out there, but ultimately, we have to make our website accessible to anyone that may have a disability, and that can be converting a document, or having a tool that will convert a document to an audio document, having closed caption for any type of a video. Brett, help me out here.
Yeah, and like a good example is, we present a lot of information visually, right? Whether it's a map or a picture. And some of making it accessible is, today we may just have a photo, but it's as simple as putting text behind that, so someone using a screen reader who can't see the photo will be able to hear a description of what the photo is. Right? Mayor and council sitting at the dais, nodding their heads in agreement at what Larry said, right? So that's
And green
that's
seems to
kind
be
of thing that,
the color of
that we
that.
would normally
Right.
need to do to
Wow.
make sure that they're compliant. Whereas documents generally, when you just make them for people who can see, right? That's how a lot of us are able to perceive. But for those who can't, you just try to add those little layers. It could also be for a map, as simple as doing something like having a alternative list view, so that if you can't see the map, you can still hear the addresses.
okay, all right.
Thanks,
thank you.
Brett.
And our PIO team is working hard to get
Yeah, I bet it's a
it
lot
up to speed
get
right
to
now
that
on
level.
this, yes.
Yeah.
Is there a deadline? That it has to
April
be?
the 24th?
Oh, wow.
April the
Okay.
24th.
Okay, well, good job, PIO team. And staff, everyone working together.
Yeah, every
All the
department,
staff- all
every
the staff.
department has something that they're
Exactly.
contributing.
Okay, no other questions.
All right.
So we'll go ahead and close this study session and break for 3 minutes. Okay? Okay. Let's wait, this guy.
Waiting on me, Matt. He's waiting on me.
Do you know what this is about?
She's going to be, yes, a speaker card. Okay. Sure, are we okay to start? Can we start?
What's that?
Okay. No. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. We're going to go ahead and start the regular city council meeting, and we'll go ahead and start with the invocation. And we have Robert Castro from Calvary Baptist Church. So if everyone is, if you're willing and able to stand, and followed by the invocation, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance by Mayor Pro Tem Dillon.
Madam Mayor and members of the City Council and members of the public, it's my pleasure to be able to come here and open up this session with a word of prayer. If you will, bow your hearts with me, please. Father in heaven, creator of the whole universe, Lord, thank you that you love our city. And Lord, as the members of this council are meeting, Lord, we pray that you would pour into them wisdom and courage, fairness to do what is right. Lord, as your word declares that, oh, the depths and the riches of your wisdom and your knowledge, and your judgments are unsearchable. But Lord, we pray that you would pour that into this council as we depend upon them to lead this city into new areas and to expand this city into more greatness. So as we are gathered here today, Lord, we pray that your wisdom would reign and rule here today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Brent. Okay, next item is the roll call. And Adriana, if you can please accept for the record that all the council is here.
So noted.
Thank you. And next are the minutes.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, I move to consider for the record the minutes of the city council study session of March 2nd, 2026, except for the record the minutes of the council regular meeting of March 2nd, 26. Consider the minutes for the Arts and Culture Commission meeting of January 6, 26, the minutes of the Arts and Culture Commission for February 3rd, 26, the Industrial Development Authority meeting of June 19th, 2024, the minutes for the Planning and Zoning Commission of February 5th, 26, and the minutes for the Police Personnel Retirement Board meeting of January 21st, 2026.
Second?
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And next are the claims.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, I move that we approve the list of claims for February 25th through March the 10th, 2026.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the claims? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries on the claims. The meeting agenda. Is there any change to the meeting agenda, Larry?
Madam Mayor, staff would request that the mayor and council remove item N, which is the executive session, from the agenda.
Okay, nothing else?
Nothing else.
Okay. If we can get an approval as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, special presentations, we don't have any today. We had a lot of them last week, right, at the State of the City. So the consent agenda is next. Okay, so all items listed with an asterisk are considered routine matters and will be enacted by one motion and one roll call vote of the council. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or member of the public so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence of the agenda. Is there anything that anyone, the council would like to pull from the consent agenda? Anything from staff, Larry? Okay, and anyone from the public? Okay, so we'll go ahead and move forward on a motion to approve.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, I move to approve the consent agenda as prepared.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. If we can please get a roll call vote, please, Adriana?
Councilmember Romo?
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan?
Yes.
Councilmember Edwards?
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston?
Yes.
Councilmember Herman?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dillon?
Yes.
Mayor Fitzgibbons?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, this is the section for public comments. I know I have a few speaker cards, but I want to just make sure we kind of let everyone know what this section, what we will do. The Casa Grande City Council values citizens' input. When called, please state your name and address, speak clearly into the microphone, and limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. In fairness to all speakers, please try not to exceed your time. In accordance with the law, the City Council cannot respond to or discuss items not listed on the agenda, but may direct them to staff upon conclusion of all public comments. So I'll go ahead and start with the speaker cards that I have. The first one is Barbara Sundest.
My name is Barbara Sundust, 1273 East Cordova Avenue, Casa Grande. I have to say, I'm still a little blown away by the spending of $1,680,000 of public funds for pickleball courts and clubhouse renovations, and no money of any kind for housing, shelters, campgrounds for the less fortunate in our community. And I'm not saying there shouldn't be pickleball courts. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that there should be some kind of a balance between that and serving the segment of our community that is homeless or unhoused or whatever. We are already looking, so this is sort of a separate topic, I guess. We are already looking at high heat warnings and like most water stations in town close as soon as the building closes, so the library or CG Helps or wherever. And so what about a place for people to go in high heat at night? What about people forced to hide or go out in the desert or live in their cars when it is way over 100 degrees? I mean, cars are like ovens, so if it's 100 outside, it's way more in the car. These are fellow human beings who deserve to be treated with respect, and we need to plan something now and not wait until the summer. At Laundry Love this past Wednesday, I talked with at least 5 elderly women who are living in difficult situations, living in cars, forced to move from place to place, not able to pay rent. One of the ladies, her name's Tina, she wrote this card. She said, I'm a 67-year-old lady who lives on Social Security. She gets $929 a month, and I guess she just got the $29 raise recently. Her rent is $1,000, and that does not include utilities. And I do get food stamps for my grandchildren, she says, and honestly, her response at the end is, God is good though, which is how all our Laundry Love people react even in difficult situations. I can do it, I only have a few seconds left. At the last city council meeting, the affordable housing speaker used the term that for some people who don't make a lot of money and have a huge amount of mortgage or rent, one event away from homelessness. That's it. Your husband dies, you get sick, rent goes up. One event from homelessness, but still we have $1 million for pickleball. So anyway, just to make people aware and to make a community aware, not just you guys. I know you know.
Thank you, Barbara. Okay, the next speaker card I have is Tamara Santilli. Hi, Tamara.
Hello, hello. Thank you, everyone, so much. I'm going to read from my cards just because I haven't had this podium for a minute. But thank you for this opportunity. My name is Tamara Santilli. I live at 8544 South Elm Road, Casa Grande. And it is my pleasure to come here today in a different role. For those of you that know me, I've been a teacher in this town for over 25 years, and I've had a different kind of spring break. This spring break, I have had the pleasure to go up above the city and look down upon this amazing city that you have talked about, the improvements and things. And I've done that in one of the hot air balloons. I don't know if any of you have seen them recently, audience, I don't know. But I want to share with you about one of the balloon companies that is in town. I was so impressed by him because I did get to go up with him, and I was so impressed by him that I wanted to bring him and his company to our community, to you, so that you are aware that this particular company, it is called Gentle Breeze Ballooning. I have little business cards here for you with additional discounts that he will honor if you bring it to him from City Council. The pilot is Bruce Patterson. He came here from Nevada. He has over 35 years experience. And the most exciting thing for me is that he is hiring local. He has hired both of his crews here in Casa Grande, my former students included, as well as myself. That's what I've kind of been doing. Very exciting, though, opportunity to see literally the growth of our community from up above. I just want to come here tonight and encourage everybody to look him up. There's a phenomenal coupon on Groupon. Again, he's going to give additional discounts to you as City Council members and any of the community that's here tonight. With his 35 years of commercial piloting, funny, amazing opportunity, though, that he wants to really build in this community with other businesses. He wants to help advertise. He wants to help talk about those pillars of community engagement. He's bringing 75 to 80 people per week down here. If you want to fly with him, you don't have to go to the Valley, though. He's launching right here. He's launching in Casa Grande, and he's landing in Casa Grande. It's 30-minute, 45-minute ride. We go, I do not pilot. I just simply route you on, and I catch you when you come down. Well, kind of, sort of. I'm not like super fast, but I am really making an effort to be there for you. But everybody, I mean, the passengers today were from Massachusetts, Cincinnati. Two different completely families came over from Boston, and they were here in Casa Grande, and they did not know each other, but by the end of the flight, they knew actually their addresses, and they were going to reconnect when they went back home. So it's just a really fun opportunity having these people in our community, and he's no longer going up to the Valley for his propane. He's not going for his juice, his champagne. Everything is here in Casa Grande, and I'm loving the fact that he's using our community and sharing our community with the world, and I just wanted you guys to know that.
Thank
That was
you.
it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, next is Janice Pratt. Hi, Janice.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. Honorable Madam Mayor, City Council members, staff, neighbors, and guests. My name is Janice Pratt, and I live at 425 East Providence Drive. I've lived there since 1987. I'm here to talk about St. Anthony's. St. Anthony's Catholic Church is a very special parish. She has operated in this community for more than 100 years. The founders had vision, then a mission. Then as the city grew, they built a grand brick building not far from here. That grand church stood for more than 60 years until there was an evil occurrence on October 18th, 2024. That was a 5-alarm fire, with many saying that it was intentionally set. The church could not be saved, the building was no longer safe, and had to be torn down. Fellow parishioners grieved for a bit and then rolled up their sleeves to get to work. The disaster fully taxed the spirit of all in the parish. But we pulled together, and after weeks, then months, a settlement was reached with the insurance company for $10.4 million. That sounds great. However, the plans for the current and future growth, I don't need to remind you all how Casa Grande is growing, revealed a capital need of about $19 million. That means the parish is $8 million short. Today, Well, last weekend, we kicked off the official major capital campaign. Hundreds of pledge cards were flickered out, and they are steadily rolling back in. The raising of these funds will be a lot of hard work and can span for more than 3 years. Building a new church quickly is essential. St. Anthony's holds countless events in the community need and deserve, including daily mass, education, liturgical celebrations, baptisms, communions, confirmations, reconciliation, marriages, funerals, and there are many merciful local charities that rely on her. There's also the weekend, where we have 7 large masses celebrating beginning on Saturday at 4, Sunday 6:30, 8, 9, 8, 10, noon, and 2. And so we are bursting at the seams. I don't need to remind you that Casa Grande is growing. We would appreciate help from anyone who can donate to this cause. You don't need to be Catholic. You just need to recognize that this is a worthy cause. Furthermore, I want there to be a triumph of good over evil. The person that destroyed this building knocked down the building, but the parish continues. We would like to see justice served, sure we would, but that still leaves us $8 million short. So tonight I brought the newly minted first edition handout brochure for more information on the St. Anthony's Capitol Drive. And for anybody who's in the community that would like to see that, you can go to the website, which is santanthonycg.org. And how can the city help? Okay, quickly. The city can help by...
Sure, go ahead, Janice.
Please remain a long and loyal partner while we navigate through this daunting process of the rebuild. We rely on you to help us. We need the city's support on paving the way and removing barriers to our success.
Thank you, Janice. If you want to leave the brochures with Larry,
Sure will.
and if anyone wants one after, you can grab it.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, that's all the speaker cards I have. Is there anyone else that would like to speak at this time? No one else? I don't know, Bobby. Bobby, I know you gave us a paper. Were you speaking or no? Just that, okay. Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public comments and go on to item I1, and it looks like that's you, Kevin.
Thank you. Staff recommends that the mayor and city council award a contract to Ellison Mills Contracting LLC for the guaranteed maximum price proposal for a total amount not to exceed $5,586,519. And that does include a city-controlled contingency of $175,683. And this is for the construction of the Truckle Road Relief Sewer Project. This is a continuation of our efforts with our sewer infrastructure, making sure that we are prepared for the future and plan for future development and be able to accommodate that development. This was one of the main sewer lines that we've identified that is starting to bump up against its capacity, and we want to get that corrected. We currently have 10 projects that are outlined as part of our sewer improvement program, and this is the third one that we'll tackle as far as our collection system. This will add sewer capacity with a new sewer line in Truckle Road from Cottonwood north to Courtson. The project will include all the traffic control, pavement restoration after construction, and the contractor will work diligently to make sure that we don't impact traffic as much as possible. Of course, that's always a big ask, but they have made that commitment to us. They plan on getting started right away if approved and should finish up before the end of this year. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Kevin. Are there any questions, comments? No. Okay. I think the important thing is just communicating to our residents, timelines. Of course, our team, communications team, setting out CG alerts and keeping updates and letting people know what's going on.
Yep.
So that's good. Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, so if we can get a resolution number, please.
Resolution number 5896, a resolution of the Council of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, accepting the proposal from Ellison Mills Contracting LLC to provide construction manager at risk services for the construction of the Treco Road Relief Sewer Project, authorizing expenditure of public funds, and authorizing the execution of a contract.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, I move approval of resolution number 5896 as presented.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, if we can get a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Rommel?
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan?
Yes.
Councilmember Edwards?
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston?
Yes.
Councilmember Herman?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dillon?
Yes.
Mayor Fitzgibbons?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, next item is the appointment of Jeff Berman to the Historic Preservation Commission. And Jeff, I see you out there. So thank you for coming. If you can stand up. This is Jeff Berman. Thank you so much for applying. We're excited, and I'll tell you, it's so exciting to sit in these interviews because people get so excited, to volunteer their time. So thank you very much. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
So if we can get a motion to approve Mr. Berman.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. You're on. You have a new job. And we pay really well. Really well. Okay, let's see, item K1.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, item K1 is asking the council to adopt a resolution adopting the City of Casa Grande 5-year strategic plan. I know that I gave a bit of a summary at the study session, but the 5-year strategic plan was implemented in 2018 with the intent of moving the entity from an annual allocation approach to one that intentionally shapes the future in various increments. The strategic plan approach allows the entity to connect community vision, policy direction, operational execution, and financial planning into a coherent framework for public organizations committed to responsible growth, fiscal discipline, and long-term sustainability. A strategic plan is as a foundational tool to building success. The plan can provide direction, discipline, and accountability. The Mayor and Council did start their process of building this new strategic plan in October. That was led by the consultant Nicole Lance of Lance Strategies. Ultimately, we went through a multiple-day session where we focused on building our new focus areas, building strategic objectives, and ultimately staff has built the action plan that will be used very closely in our fiscal year 27 budget process. The focus areas are infrastructure and expansion, public safety, economic vitality, good governance, and community enhancement. The plan was developed with a timetable in mind, albeit the overall target is to meet annually to discuss the framework of the goals prior to the executive leadership team developing an annual action plan that can be implemented and executed concurrently with our annual budget process. Mayor and Council has seen this document on a couple of occasions in draft format, and we are asking the Mayor and Council to adopt by resolution the new strategic plan for the City of Casa Grande. With that, Mayor, I'd entertain any questions.
Any questions, comments?
No.
No questions, but for those that are just joining us, we did have a study session prior to this meeting to discuss this action plan. And so I just wanted to follow up and just thank, all the council members and staff that participated in this strategic planning session. Especially we have new, 3 new council members that weren't here when we had the last strategic plan. And so it's good for all of you to give your input. We all represent the community. We all have different constituents that we talk to and deal with. So it's good to get everyone's feedback and input on what's important to our community. And then, of course, having the staff that are the experts in these areas to also provide feedback, and all of us just be on board of, what's important and how we want to move forward. So I think it's a great working document. There's a lot. It's a pretty aggressive plan, but at least I'm a list person, so I love being able to just make a check on something. So, but we know every one of those actions there's a lot of time, energy, money, and so it's going to be, long road, but at least we have focus. So I just appreciate everyone's time moving forward with that. So, I guess, any other questions, comments? So we'll go ahead, and if we can get a resolution number, please, Adriana.
Resolution number 5897, a resolution of the Council of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, adopting the City of Casa Grande 2025 strategic plan.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, I move that we approve resolution number 5897 as presented.
Second?
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? So if we can get a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Romo?
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan?
Yes.
Councilmember Edwards?
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston?
Yes.
Councilmember Herman?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dillon?
Yes.
Mayor Fitzgibbons?
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Okay, so no executive session, so we'll go ahead and go on to reports. And how about if I start with you, Brent?
Okay.
Since you're
Well,
right here.
State of the City was a great event. I thought it was a really good turnout. Had fun with it, learned lots of new things. Some of us, even up here, learned new things that day. The other one I got to do is the Fire Department and Communications Awards Banquet on Saturday night. Went to that. It was a good turnout. It's always kind of interesting when a lot of the guys can't be there because they're all on shift
I know.
somewhere else. But what I was really impressed with was you listen to some of the stories, because we always see the stats of how many calls they had, things like that. But when you go and listen to some of the stories when they're presenting these life-saving awards, and how it starts with the 911 operator, and then, they're directing the people on the ground and the citizens, and then you get the fire department showing up, and just everything that goes into those, and
Yeah, all those
how
lives
they're
saved.
really saving lives. It's not just how many calls they're making, but they're actually out there saving lives, and it's pretty impressive. So, honored to be there. It was a good event.
Good, thank
That's
you.
it.
Okay, Bob?
No report.
Okay,
Thank you.
Sean?
This week we have at the Pinal County Fair. So please show up, support our youth in Pinal County. Even, we got a lot of kids out of Casa Grande that are participating in that event. There'll be, look at your schedule, but the actual auction is on Saturday. So if you have the means to go out there and support those kids, there's always a chance for add-ons for the kids. There's always a chance to buy a pig, buy a cow, buy something out there, stock your freezer up. It's a great event, and it's for our youth, for their future, for what they're doing in their college, their future education and whatnot. And also St. Patty's Day is tomorrow, so party safely.
So with the Dugan last name, it must be a big holiday.
Yeah, it is a big event for the Dugan family, for sure.
Right. Okay. Becca?
No reports.
Okay. Anthony?
Just wanted to say, the state of the city, I thought it was very, very good job by all those that had a hand in putting all that together, and also to our mayor. You did a wonderful job in speaking and representing the city, and we all look very good.
And our youth.
Our jerseys.
And so I just thought I'd say that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, did a wonderful job, and so really enjoyed. I had to sit down when the Kashner, yes, y'all know what I'm talking about. That's my coach, and so he was my coach. And so I'm so thankful for the opportunity to be able to sit underneath him and for the family to be there and things like that. And then also our boxer, Mr. Ramos. I'm glad for him, happy for him as well. But Mayor, wonderful job.
Thank you. Thank you.
My turn?
Yes,
All
your
right,
turn.
thanks. To echo that, Mayor, great job. And we did
From
learn a
everyone.
lot. We learned a lot too
Yes.
that night. So it was really good. But yeah, a few things over the last weekend before this past weekend. Got to see Lisa a lot. Firefighters golf tournament kicked off for their charities. That was great, full field. Little League opening ceremonies. and our very own mayor threw out the first pitch over the
got it.
plate, I
She
might
got
say.
it. She got
And
it,
she
too.
caught it, so it was
Yeah.
great. And the fly-in was at the airport, like 100 planes, and then storytelling and stakes at the
That's right.
at the Historical Society, which was a lot of fun. And then I was out of town this past weekend, so I didn't do anything, but I made up for it the weekend before. And then coming up this weekend, however, Taco Fest, free event this year, 3
Yes.
p.m. Gates open at 3 p.m. at Dave White Park. Be tacos, music, dancing, kids zone, displays, all kinds of fun stuff. In coordination with the Plein Air Painting event sponsored by the city and the Arts and Cultures Commission. You meet here at 7:30 to get kicked off, and then the final display will be at the Taco Fest. So, and the judging, so that'll be pretty neat. And so again, free event, go on out there, enjoy some tacos responsibly, and anything else. And then I want to give a special thanks to Danny Gallegos and Aidenary Moreno. Took some youth commissioners to Washington DC for a few
that's
days.
right.
They met with senators, legislators, learned about government, and they got a custom tour of Georgetown from the former youth commission president who now goes to Georgetown. So they had a good time, and they made it back safely. Thanks, Danny. And then also Soul covered for the meeting on Saturday. So thanks to your department, Danny, and everybody for taking care of that.
Yeah.
And the kids had a great time.
Made it back safely.
Yep.
Good. Before the storms hit.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Okay, yes, no, as far as the state of the city, this is definitely a huge team effort. And so, thanks to all the staff and Larry and everyone for providing all that information. You know, one lady actually thought I memorized that whole thing, you know, that whole hour speech, and I didn't want to tell her I didn't, but I had to, you know, but seriously, you know, I mean, yeah, so, but all of, you know, the staff provided that information to our PIO team, and our PIO team, you know, we wanted to do something a little different and try something at night, because it seems as though every year people say that they're unable to attend because they work. And so we wanted to do something in the evening. Of course, we had a unique year with all of us graduating, you know, went to Casa Grande Union. So we, of course, had to have it at Casa Grande Union. They were fantastic to work with. You know, the PIO team, definitely their creativity and energy and, you know, excitement, you know, showed. So it was really a combination of all of us, you know, providing that information and you know, informing the community. But we did get a lot of input. People like it at night. I think, you know, we realized that, and had a nice, you know, group that came, new residents. You know, we weren't quite sure who would come in the evening, but it was really good. So really, thank you to everyone. It was everyone. Your guys' videos were great. They were really, really good. So thank you. I'm glad you did it, because then I didn't have to talk as much. And then another thing, you know, the whole thing with the ADOS, that same day, you know, this is something that, you know, of course, our staff, you know, Larry and you know, all of our, you know, executive leadership team has been working on this, you know, excited to get this across the, you know, you know, finish line, and Arizona Department of Water, working with Arizona Department of Water Resources, and the governor came down and signed that same day. So we're looking forward to where we're going to move with the alternative designation of assured water. So thank you again for everything. It seems like it came and went though, didn't it? It was like, okay, we celebrated for what, an hour maybe, and then on to the next things. So, yeah, Taco Fest, 3 to 9. Everyone, you know, please come. Thank you for attending the fire department. There was great activities this weekend. It's at that time of year. Little League, it amazes me every time I go to that opening day. They have 700 kids that participate and 53 teams that that are a part of that group. And it was just a great morning, and so much energy and excitement. So as far as upcoming events, Faith Alliance, our Deputy Chief Leos will be speaking. So if anyone wants to attend that, that's this Thursday at 11:30 at the First Presbyterian Church. And another event, Project Connect, which is where a bunch of the nonprofit organizations come together and bring resources, not only to the homeless, but to the community. It's going to be at Peart Park this year, and that's March 25th from 1 to 5 p.m. Boys and Girls Club, Dancing for Our Stars, is March 28th at Harrah's, so none of us are dancing this year. Hey guys, you got to step it up next year. But that's an event. And just to kind of give an update on what's happening with the homeless strategies, we have the Unshelter Person Action Committee. You guys are probably familiar with us putting that group together before we put the ordinance out. That group meets monthly. And so we are, Seeds of Hope, Horizon, Casa Grande Alliance, CARA, Transitional Living Center, Barbara comes for Laundry Love. And so trying to identify strategies moving forward, but we're looking on some transitional plan in the future. So hopefully you guys will be seeing something with that in the near future. But yeah, so we're meeting monthly, and that committee is moving along on some ideas on how to address those issues. So, and I think that's it.
I got
Yes.
one more.
Yes, sure.
The Animal Care and
that's
Adoption
right, yeah.
Center mural ribbon cutting
is
is this
Thursday.
week. Yes, on Thursday. Thursday at 10 a.m. at 202 East First Avenue. So if you want to show up and see what they accomplished over there and maybe adopt an animal. So
There you go. There you go. And you probably will, when you leave. But the artwork is beautiful. It's really pretty.
I'm
So
excited
yes,
to see
please
it.
come. Please come, everyone. So I think that's it. So with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Is that the one?